Welcome to SHOWBIZ Tell, a monthly podcast from the Georgia Entertainment Public Relations Alliance. And now, here's our podcast. Welcome to SHOWBIZ Tell, podcast where PR professionals deliver a backstage pass as we uncover secrets to success in the entertainment industry. Our guests share their favorite show-stopping moments, their acumen in business and entertainment, and their adventures. What are the great stories? And now we're going to SHOWBIZ Tell. I'm Mitch Leff.
I'm Melissa Sanders.
And with us today is Brennen Dicker, who's Executive Director of Georgia State University's Creative Media Industries Institute, CMII for short, and also Chair of the Georgia Screen Entertainment Commission. Any other titles I should add in there?
No, I think that's good. That's enough right now.
Is that enough?
I'm wearing enough hats as it is.
I only have 30 minutes, so we can't take up the whole thing with everybody's titles because that would take too long. But it is a testament to the fact that you are incredibly involved in the industry in Georgia. So I'm going to toss to Melissa and let Melissa chat a little bit.
Yeah, so our podcast is called SHOWBIZ Tell for a reason. And basically we're sort of leveling up our our childhood show and tell concept we all grew up with to focus on conversations about how the business of entertainment works. So to kick things off, of course, we asked you to bring something to show and tell us to get started. So let us know what you have with you.
What do I have with me? Well, let's see. I've got my phone, which is a big show and tell. Since I'm on my phone all the time, my kids bug me about it. The thing that I would say with show and tell is the posters that I have behind me, which is the True Detective poster and Rectify. Those were two shows that I was fortunate to work on the post-production side of things, and really helped me get into. I wish I had can't see my Walking Dead poster, but that would be the first show that I was able to work on, at least in Georgia. And that kind of really helped my career, here in Georgia, and really got me on a path towards entertainment and post-production, which I had been doing production for many years and post-production, but not necessarily in episodic and feature films.
So you're talking about Walking Dead as kind of a pivotal point. How did that moment impact your journey? And we can't see the post, but I think so many of our viewers are going to have Walking Dead memorabilia.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm fortunate now because Tom Luce, who was the executive producer of The Walking Dead, who got me originally involved with the show, was an artist in residence here at CMII for a couple of years. And so he really helped our students out and is a GSU alum. So I can't speak any more highly of his involvement with the Institute. But going back to, I guess, 15 years ago, when television series started coming to Georgia, Tom was really important in that process because Tom was from Georgia. He was a GSU grad, as a matter of fact. And he had done a lot of shows in Utah and out west and wanted to bring production back to Georgia somehow. And so he was really talked to a lot of us about this incentive of trying to get an incentive going in Georgia, and helped us with the narrative on that, and also helped talk to the governor at the time and with Sonny Perdue in making that happen. And so there's a large group of people that were involved in that. But Tom, certainly being in the industry, knew that he had some influence there and helped us along the way as far as getting that incentive going. So with that.
Yeah. Well, I want to, and I feel like I jumped across a step here. Tell us, what is CMII? I kind of said, here's my job.
Pitch to my
yeah.
Institute.
What is CMII? What is that?
Yeah,
what is that all about?
We're here at the Creative Media Industries Institute at Georgia State University. CMI was established we opened our doors in 2017, and we're really teaching the next generation of digital storytellers through emerging technology, which is augmented reality, virtual reality, gaming. We have bachelor degrees in game design, game development, and media entrepreneurship, as well as an MFA program in virtual production and visual effects. So we try to look at storytelling with all the new technology that's there and ways you can use that. That could be in gaming, that could be in a TikTok video, that could be in many different iterations as far as storytelling, but it all involves a lot of new technology. And so we're kind of moving into this artificial intelligence and generative AI and how that tells stories. So it's all very exciting. We started with about 150 students here, and We have close to 900 students now at the institute, and I'm really proud of our students. It's been more of it was a startup, for the last 4 or 5 years, and I feel like we're scaling up now in terms of just getting a reputation and getting students out there that are working within the industry. And that those industries include gaming, film and television, various corporate companies that are doing entertainment, and also just augmented reality and virtual reality. So there's a lot of different paths to go.
So undergrad and graduate?
Yes.
What's okay, so
Right.
so
We
both.
started an MFA program
Okay.
3 years ago.
Okay. And if folks want to find out about it and get more info and enroll, what's the best place to go to do that?
The best place to go would be our website, and I just want to make sure that I say that correctly here. It is cmii.gsu.edu.
We'll make sure
That's the
we'll
best
add
way to
we'll
do
add that into
Yeah, if
the
you can
show
add
notes and all of that.
put it down below there here. cmii.gsu.edu.
Exactly.
You can edit
So
that out a little bit.
yeah, well, we always ask folks, okay, tell us your social handles and all that. We'll get that from you in post production, as they say.
Sure.
But often people say, "Oh crap, what is my handle?" Except they use it so often they forget what the handle is. So yeah, I'm
Brennen,
sorry,
you
go
have
ahead,
this,
Melissa. Yeah.
I was going to say, Brennen, you have this fascinating background of you've done so many different areas of entertainment. We met when you were in the post-production world, and you've just kind of gone through so many different aspects of it. So we're curious, what is your secret sauce, and how is the business model, specifically for Georgia State CMII, unique? Why do you think that's helped you guys be so successful in this industry? And it could be, things there at CMII or even in your previous life, of sort of how do you think that model has been unique, and how has it impacted you and made you successful?
I think, again, this goes back to having, like you said, I've had a career in film and television, and this goes back to my early days of starting in film and television at 16 years old as a PA and sweeping a studio floor, and then kind of having the opportunity to do all these different positions throughout the years, and then being able to then go to Chicago, have a career in production there, as well as sports television. And that kind of propelled me then to go to Atlanta. All of that to say, I think that all these different iterations of these times in my life that I've been in the industry, what changes is technology and all of what goes on there. And so, in order to stay flexible and working within different environments, I think that you want to make sure you're following the trends in technology and things that are going on in the industry. And I think that for me, I was at a point with my career in film and television, especially post-production. I had done so much there, and I was really excited about where to go next after that. And I was lucky enough to meet, I think it was Andrew Greenberg from GGDA, who took me to a DreamHack convention, I think in 2016 or 2017. And Melissa, you remember this because you were part of that. But that kind of showed me that the larger world of entertainment. I had never seen gaming in that way. DreamHack is a large gaming conference. If you all are not familiar with it, how many people go to it, Melissa? Do we have like 30,000, 40,000?
I think the biggest was nearly 50,000.
50,000, yeah, 50,000 fans that go to these gaming events, and it made me step back for a moment in a time when I was doing Rectify and True Detective and the originals and Vampire Diaries, all these post shows that were really successful and a lot of fun to work with the teams that I had. But I recognized that the industry, there were so many other ways to tell stories, and I felt like that, especially all the technology that was coming, it seemed like, especially in gaming, that people were creating these worlds, these virtual worlds. And so that allowed us in the film and television world, especially if you look at Mandalorian, which is a good example, how they started using virtual production in their, shooting on larger stages that looked like they were outside, but they were inside. And you couldn't tell that world was tricky to the eye. And what it made me realize was there's going to be so much innovation over the next decade in terms of how directors can create and what worlds they can create. And so when I came into CMII, I was with a really phenomenal group of people that we all sat down and started talking about where are, where's gaming going in the next 10 years, but where is film and television going? And there seemed to be this cross section of people that could create worlds, and they could do it for film and television. They could also do it for gaming. So that kind of innovation, I would say, is a game changer in terms of just keeping up with that and keeping up with the various trends that are going on within the different industries. And so that is the business case to me, was just find that sweet spot as far as the crossing those two. And we were lucky enough, we started this I started in 2018 here at CMII, and we knew about 4 or 5 years that we would probably see this cross-pollination of how people could create these worlds. And that's how we became so successful within the industry and providing techs and people that can do this type of work, because our gaming students can do just as good a work in the virtual production side, and it gives them the creativity, but also gives them the flexibility of either doing gaming or doing virtual production. So that's one of the areas that we really focus on here.
So, I mean, the industry has seen all kinds of challenges the last couple of years. In terms of your career, what's kind of been the toughest hurdle that you've had to overcome? How did you navigate that?
I would say, Mitch, I think the toughest hurdle is your typecast, just as you would be in film and television. Each of these positions that you take, especially if you get good at it, people only see you as that. And a good example of that would be, I was a production assistant for a couple of years, and I was known as that. And if I wanted to move into being on camera, or being known as an assistant director, or being known as an assistant producer, you have to the challenge is making people trust that you can do the job, but also that you have to kind of let go of that previous job, even though that's where your income is, and pivot and go into a whole new area, even though it's in film and TV. And then finally someone will give you a chance, and then you're known as this. So it's redefining yourself every so many years. And that is not an easy thing to do. And some people don't want that. I mean, I think that there are a lot of people that are great, people that grew up in the camera department that are great second ACs, first ACs. They become directors of photography. They're in that whole core group, and that's what they want to do. I just was one that wanted to kind of learn everything, because I wanted to eventually produce. And so that learning to do a little bit of camera, learning to do a little bit of gaffing, little lighting, all of these different things added up to when I started producing. I kind of knew instinctively what a crew could do, what I was asking them to do, because I'd done it myself. And so
that's a great example. And we tell folks we're in the PR area, and we have people who are specialists in media or writing or special events, and or industry areas, entertainment, real estate, technology. And I always tell folks it's really important to be diverse, so you have those different skills. So A, so you can grow, but B, so if something happens to a particular industry, you're not slammed and have to reinvent yourself. Then you want to constantly be growing and reinventing yourself. And I always tell folks there's nothing I can't do. There's just things I haven't done yet.
That's right. That's a great idea. I agree 100% on that. And I think we're becoming more of a generalist society in terms of workforce. To be specific about something, again, the speed at which things are happening with technology, you have to keep up with that to some degree in any industry that you're in. But especially, being flexible and learning new technology, learning new workflows, being open to that and I think in terms of, especially now, what we're seeing in terms of the speed at which we see artificial intelligence coming into our pipelines and being able to do some amazing things. But if you're not open to that, it could really hurt your career, and as opposed to, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, you could get into a position and stay there for a long time, and technology would come along, but it wasn't as transformative as we're seeing with AI. And so I think that this idea of being a generalist is is more needed now than ever.
Yeah, I feel like in a lot of fields, you can be that specific focus expert later, but you gotta start as a generalist.
Oh
And
yeah,
if you get too if you get too siloed in your 20s, then you'll never. I feel like it's really hard. It's harder to expand into other fields if you've only been in one thing, for your formative years.
100%. And I think it's also this idea of pushing yourself. No one's going to do that for you. You have to kind of push yourself and get uncomfortable. And I'll tell you, if you want to do that, just change your career from industry to education, or in your late 40s. And you've done it. And yet I felt so like king of the world because I knew I had all of this um, knowledge in film and TV and workflows, and I could go into a room and I didn't, I just knew it all because I'd been around it for decades. And then to say, okay, I'm going to let this go. Now, I would say that I still use a lot of the techniques and everything that with workflows, I can see that in different areas in terms of looking at film and television versus gaming and see the similarities between some of those workflows and creativity. But when you pivot like that, it's so you're fearful, but also it's such a learning experience. And then when you get over that, it's, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that it's now going on 7 years in July that I've been to CMII. I'm so glad I did this because I learned so much, but it was a huge risk. And people were like, hey, why are you doing this? You've got a good thing going, just keep with it. And I loved the company I was working with was called the Sim Group out of Canada. And we bundled camera packages and post-production in LA, Vancouver, Toronto, New York, and Atlanta. And we had this amazing company going that eventually got sold or broken up. But I knew, again, also you have to kind of know where you are in the industry and just what's going on, that this would last, this too shall pass and there'll be something new. So you have to kind of know that you've got a limitation on the time you've got with certain career paths. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to try something new, and I wanted to build something. That's why I came to CMII.
I'm gonna toss to Melissa for question number 4 here.
Well, I was just going to add to that, Brennan, I think, your story is will resonate with people because many of us, myself included, have shifted, maybe not necessarily what we're actually doing, but how we're doing it within the worlds that we work in. And I think it's encouraging for people who might be watching this to recognize that, you can shift and it's not too late to get involved in this industry if that's what you want to do, and that there are
100%.
ways to get in and ways to jump in and ways to get started. So, I mean, I spent the first 18 years of my career in the performing arts,
Yeah.
and now I'm working in gaming and film and music and tech and all these other areas. And like Mitch said, it's taking the things that you know well and just learning how to apply them to other areas that you're still passionate about and excited about. And so I think your story will resonate with people to recognize that, you can always still go after that dream and shift into other things that you love. And there's a place for it for everyone. So speaking of stories, Mitch and I, of course, and really everyone who hosts these podcasts, we're all PR people. And I like to call
Yeah.
myself sometimes a professional storyteller, much like what you do. So naturally, we want to ask you a little bit about the PR marketing side of where you are and what you do, and what is the role of PR and marketing in your business strategy there at CMII? How does it affect what you guys do or don't do, whether it's there or other places you've been?
Sure. I think that, again, it's educational versus industry. And I think that that's a very different way of going about PR and marketing. At my previous job at the Sim Group, we had a marketing team out of Los Angeles that would help market us. And there was a lot of support there, which, of course, again, smaller company in terms of about 500 and, total. But we were doing very big shows, finishing Game of Thrones, working on the shows back here. We had about 50 or 60 episodics that we were working on in North America. And so that in itself kind of it drove itself. And as you guys both understand, especially being in the industry, the impact is always, keeping your name out there and just getting it out. And so I was kind of in charge of getting Sim out there in terms of with Atlanta and the shows we did, but also with Savannah College of Art and Design, which I was the chair of the advisory board at the time with them. So to get them involved with either film festivals or things that we were doing here in Atlanta. So all of that to say, when you pivot and go into a university environment, especially one as large as Georgia State, which is great. We have over 50,000 students here. It's like a big city. The issue in PR and marketing for an institute like this is trying to get the attention of the university when you have all these other departments, all these great things are going on at a large university, and how do you get the attention of the marketing, chief marketing people that are there at GSU? And you can, and believe me, they do as much as they can for us, but really as an institute, I realized in a couple years time that I needed my own marketing person here at CMII. And so Nathan Archer, who's our marketing manager here, came on board I think a year and a half ago now. And so that's helped out tremendously, because I think the issue to me was me trying to do my own marketing for the Institute was almost impossible. And you guys know this in terms of just trying to keep up with everything and pushing out information. And it's a budgetary concern. I mean, we don't have the same budgets as I'm accustomed to with the companies that I worked for before, and understandably so. But in order to get, you're trying to get a brand out there, CMII, it's a mouthful already, but just to get that out there, like SCAD has been out there, but SCAD's been out there for almost 40 years, and they do a great job of marketing themselves. But trying to do that on a much smaller level, and at least pushing it out in Atlanta, then the Southeast, then regionally, and then nationally, there are goals there, but the question is how best to reach your audience. And again, your audience is obviously, you have students that you want to have interested in this, but also just the general population of people that are in the industry, to let them know that we're here as a resource. And we're very good. We've been very successful on getting industry people to come in and work with us, which I've been thrilled about. But the general idea of walking down the street and you ask someone who CMI is or what CMI does, that's where it becomes a challenge, because we just can't get the name out there fast enough and long enough a lot of times.
Well,
But you found
and
that impact of,
yeah, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say,
We've talked about this at Brennen. It's got to be an ongoing effort.
That's right.
It's the stop and start is not nearly as effective as having someone like Nathan, who's an ongoing marketing person who's continuously reaching out to all of your constituents and target audiences and talking about what you're doing. And we get clients that come to us all the time and say, "Can you work with us for a week or two?" And
yeah, it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way. You got to make it an ongoing effort.
Yeah.
Well, and what I was going to say is it's great to hear you say you're actually hitting some of those objectives, right? Like you're seeing, if you have some of your measurables were to bring in more industry people, to have more partnerships, to have presence at more events, which eventually is going to help you bring in more students, which is then, filling the pipeline of the industry.
That's right.
So it's really cool to hear you say that, you've been able to see that happen and grow that with having this marketing support on the team, which I think is key. So
I think also to help with that, early on getting, we were lucky enough to have different artists and residents come on board at different times. We've had, Chris Bridges, Ludacris was one of our artists and residents who gave us a big boost with him saying he came on board, got his degree from GSU. Tom Luce, obviously with The Walking Dead, as far as his connections with different AMC and Fox Television and the different studios he's worked with, to get us to a point where we created our own feature film last year and, got that on Amazon and Tubi TV called Rejuvenation. And last month alone, I think we had 30,000 views, which was great. So these kind of opportunities are things that push us out there, get us some recognition. But really, because we bring in, India Ari is another artist in residence that we have here. We've worked with her on a music video in Ghana. I mean, just these opportunities for students are just incredible. And plus the faculty here, a lot of them are professors of practice that are actually in the industry. So they're bringing back great projects for our students. James Martin and Max Thomas did a lot of the motion capture effects in Electric State, which is a movie that just came out on Netflix last month. And they got at least 15 to 20 of our students to work on set with them. So these kind of things are just that's what bridges those success and those connections that I think it's difficult sometimes to, you want to push that out as much as possible. And yet it's hard to do that. It's hard to get to be seen, because everyone's doing things like this, but how do you get above the fray, and keeping that going?
And I think people, what we find on the PR side, especially, is people just think our job is just to get press and our marketing is just to get ads. But really it's, everyone that works in this PR marketing field, we're here to help create and sustain this environment where you can achieve your objectives. And so there's much more to it than just what you 100%. See on the surface. So to hear you talk about hitting those goals and knowing that there's this other support structure that's helping you get there, I think is really important for people to understand and see the positive impact of that, at least for us from a PR marketing perspective. So I think that's amazing. So congratulations on that.
Oh, thanks. And I would just add that I think that, one thing that when I got into the industry, I did not know the business of film and television. I wanted to be on the creative side and artistic side of producing films and creating content. But what really opened my eyes was the business side of this. And that includes obviously the marketing side of it and how crucial that is to understand it and how to work within that. And that's one of the things, again, we try to bring here at CMII with our media entrepreneurship graduates or undergraduates, what to do in that position in terms of how to sell yourself and how it's a business rather than just a creative venture.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to jump now to the more challenging part of this interview, Brennen. So call this the Blitz, and Melissa's going to go through the lightning round for you.
All right.
All right. You ready? You're sitting down, right?
Ready, I'm ready.
All right. Go ahead. Go ahead, Melissa.
Lightning round. Okay. You ready?
Lightning round. Okay, I'm ready.
First. Favorite movie or television show?
Boy, this is going to take a second. But I would say that one of them that I love is called Cinema Paradiso. It's a art house film, probably shot about 30 years ago, I guess, about a kid that loved film. And I fell in love with that movie when I was a teenager because I related to it. As a kid was watching films all the time, and I just loved that idea. It's just a beautiful film. So that would be one of my favorites. Obviously, Godfather is another one that really resonates with me. And being able to work with Francis Ford Coppola and Megapolis was a huge thing for us here and our students. We did some motion capture work with him directly here in their studio. But I think the thing that two other films that really got me when I was a kid was Grease and Star Wars. And I think those two got me into film because when I saw Grease, I was like, God, that looks like so much fun as a kid. I'm a really young kid and I'm watching this, but I thought that looks so much fun. I wonder how they do that. And then Star Wars was just this magical thing. Like, how do you even create something like that? And so that kind of got me down this road of, doing, picking up a Super 8 camera with my friends and doing stop motion claymation and just trying to figure out what that was. And so we would do stuff on the weekends, try to mimic like what Star Wars was. And that kind of got me in this kind of thought of it'd be cool to make things, with a larger group of people rather than just doing it by yourself. And I really resonated with that. So it's a multitude of answers there for one question.
Multifaceted answer.
Exactly.
So for the next couple, we're going to make you do short answers.
Great. Right? Yeah, you probably want that.
All right, we're going to go short answers. All right, there we go. Okay, cool, Melissa.
All-time favorite music venue?
Oh, Red Rocks. I grew up in Colorado.
Mr. Colorado. Yes.
I grew up in Colorado, so I cannot tell you if you ever get an opportunity to. I mean, the Hollywood Bowl is a beautiful place to go, but Red Rocks is my favorite, and I've seen a number of concerts there. It's absolutely stunning if you get a chance to ever go.
Favorite hobby?
Wow, that is a good question. My hobbies right now are serving on boards, I guess, right? I mean, with what I'm doing with GSEC and the Atlanta Jewish Film Festival. No, I think that, my hobby, I used to ski a lot when I was younger. That was my hobby that I would do. I would say at this point, I I am a big race fan. I love Formula One racing. So there's a group of us that get together every couple of weeks and watch the races. And we're in hopes that we'll get to go to a race sometime in the near future. But I do love Formula One racing, so I'll keep that as my hobby.
Okay, what about your favorite video game?
Wow. I don't know if I can answer that because I follow all these. Our esports team here, GSU esports team, does a number of video games. So if I say one, then the team would be mad at me.
Don't want to be
So
biased.
in terms of I'm just going to keep that as I'm a lover of all video games. That's all I'm going to say. Because listen, there's also so many different games now out there in terms of fantasy games versus shooter games versus everything else that I'm excited about the direction video games are going because of the immersive nature in them and how I think that in the very near future, we'll be doing it through our glasses rather than just on the set. I mean, I think we'll be immersed in it a lot more through VR.
You've come a long way since Pong.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, exactly. If I want to say a favorite video game of all time, I think Galaga was one when I was a kid. I loved that. But my girls are, they're doing a lot on Roblox and different platforms right now they enjoy, and I like watching them, play their games.
Love it. What's your favorite thing about Atlanta or what makes it special to you?
Atlanta, I thought was just a big corporate town when I moved here 20 years ago from Chicago, and I thought of this as going to be a stop, as many people did 20 years ago, where it'd be a stop before I went to New York or LA. And what I realized the time that I came here, there was a number of people here that had this great community in film and television. It was a very small community, but everybody was very helpful. And I really love that you can come to Atlanta and people kind of accept you. They're like, hey, if you can help us out, then help us out. It's really open that way. And so I felt like I owe something to Atlanta for my career, because without Atlanta and without you guys being here, I wouldn't have the career I have as far as the group of friends and people that I have around me. So it really is it's a special place. It feels like more of a small town than it does a large city, even though we're a large city. And especially our community that we have here. I can't tell you how much I enjoy. I've enjoyed the last 2 decades here. It's become my home, and my girls are, obviously my girls are here. They've been born here, and I met my wife here. So, a lot.
And what would people be surprised to know about you?
Oh, I thought about this. I sang in high school and college, and I was good enough to get a scholarship in music, and I was a tenor. And so I sang and that's how I got my, I was able to pay for my college through scholarship.
Can I find any of that video on YouTube?
My girls no one believes me that I actually did this, but I did have a scholarship at one point, and it actually helped me tour Europe, and I was with a choir, and it was great. I loved it. I think that I quit after I left college because it became a chore. It was just something that I had to do in order to get through school. But I do, that's something that probably people don't know about me. I sing in the shower and I sing in the car to myself. But,
So there is videos. What you're telling me is there is video. There is video. All right.
There is video somewhere. Yeah.
All right. We'll talk to your wife about some bumper music for this podcast here. All right. So that is our Showbiz and Tell for this month. Thanks.
Favorite book?
Everett.
Did you guys have favorite book?
Favorite book? We can do favorite book.
That's what's the last thing you read? Or favorite book?
There you go. Co-Intelligence. That's the best. This is the last one I've Ethan Mollick. It's about living and working with AI. It's actually quite a good book, quite a good read. Something that people should pick up if they're exploring AI at all.
Yes, I'm exploring a lot of that these days. I will absolutely check it out.
Yeah,
very good. Well, thank you to our guest, Brennen Dicker, Executive Director of the Georgia State University's Creative Media Industry Institute and Chair of the Georgia Screen Entertainment Commission. Thanks for sharing with us today. As always, look on the Georgia Entertainment PR Alliance website, GEPRA, GEPRA.net, for the archive of podcasts you can watch in video format or audio, whatever is fun and easy for you. Melissa, take us out.
Yeah, just thanks again for sharing with us, Brennen. Hope you've been as entertained and inspired as we have. And to all of our listeners, you've been listening to Showbiz and Tell, a podcast by the Georgia Entertainment Public Relations Alliance. I'm Melissa Sanders.
And I'm Mitch Leff. Thanks you, and we'll see you next time.